could prime Shaquille O'Neal have defended the Great Wall of China? To figure this out, we need to break down three critical areas. First, what made Shaq unstoppable as a defender. Second, what the Great Wall was actually built to defend against. And third, whether Shaq's skills translate to ancient warfare. Let's start with why prime Shaq was a defensive nightmare. During his peak from 1999 to 2004, Shaq was averaging 2.8 blocks per game while playing just under 40 minutes a night. But the blocks don't tell the whole story. His presence alone altered everything. Players changed their shots mid-air, avoided the paint entirely, or just passed out when they saw him rotating over. Standing at 7 feet 1 inch and weighing between 315 and 340 pounds depending on the season, Shaq had a physical advantage that simply didn't exist for other players. His wingspan reached 7 feet 7 inches, meaning he could contest shots without even jumping. When he did leave his feet, forget about it. The rim protection was suffocating. Here's what separated Shaq from other dominant big men. He combined that size with legitimate athleticism and instincts. Watch the 2000 playoffs where he put up 3 blocks per game against the Pacers. He wasn't just swatting shots randomly. He was reading plays, timing his jumps perfectly, and protecting the rim without fouling. His defensive rating during that championship run sat at 98.4, elite by any standard. The Lakers' defense was completely different with Shaq on the court versus off. When he played, their defensive rating dropped to 102.1. Without him, it ballooned to 107.3. That's a massive 5-point swing, meaning opposing teams scored 5 fewer points per 100 possessions just because this man existed in the paint. But Shaq wasn't just a shot blocker. His post defense was legendary. He could body up anyone, use his strength to deny position, and force players into terrible angles. Ask Tim Duncan, who had some of his worst playoff performances against Shaq's Lakers. Kevin Garnett once said Shaq was the hardest player he ever had to score on because you couldn't move him, couldn't go around him, couldn't shoot over him. 3 championships during his prime, 3 finals MVPs, multiple all-defensive team selections. The accolades back up what the film shows. Prime Shaq was one of the most dominant defensive forces the league has ever seen. Now we need to understand what the Great Wall was actually defending against. Built over centuries starting around 700 BC, the wall's main purpose was stopping invasions from northern tribes, particularly the Mongols. These weren't casual raids. We're talking about massive cavalry armies, tens of thousands of horseback warriors who specialized in rapid attacks and strategic retreats. The wall stretched approximately 13,170 miles across northern China. Its height varied between 16 and 26 feet, with watchtowers rising even higher. The wall itself was designed with specific defensive features. Crenellations at the top allowed archers to fire while staying protected. Watchtowers positioned every few hundred yards enabled communication through fire signals and smoke. Garrison stations housed thousands of soldiers who could respond to breaches. But here's what matters most. The wall wasn't meant to stop invasions completely. Military historians agree it was designed to slow enemies down, force them into predictable routes, and buy time for Chinese armies to mobilize and respond. Think of it as a massive early warning system combined with a physical obstacle. The Mongols eventually conquered China anyway in the 13th century, proving the wall had limitations. So can we compare Shaq's paint defense to the Great Wall's border defense? At first glance, they share similarities. Both created zones opponents feared entering. Both forced attackers to change their approach entirely. Both relied on physical presence as much as actual intervention. Shaq made players avoid the paint. The wall made armies avoid certain regions. However, the scale is completely different. Shaq defended roughly 16 feet of space in the key. The Great Wall defended thousands of miles. Shaq faced 5 players at a time. The wall faced armies of 50,000. One man versus a fortification that took centuries and millions of workers to complete. But flip the question around. Could the Great Wall have stopped what Shaq stopped? Put the wall in the 2000 NBA Finals. Would it have held Jalen Rose to 38% shooting like Shaq did? Could it have blocked Rick Smits 3 times in one possession? The wall doesn't have instincts. It can't read a pick and roll, can't rotate on help defense, can't time a contest. It just stands there. Shaq actively disrupted everything within his radius. Here's the real distinction. The Great Wall defended through passive resistance, making invasion costly and difficult. Shaq defended through active dominance, eliminating options and demoralizing opponents. The wall succeeded by existing. Shaq succeeded by dominating. Prime Shaq couldn't physically defend 13,000 miles of border. That's obvious. But could he have captained a garrison, anchored a defensive strategy, protected a critical gate? Absolutely. His leadership, instincts, and sheer intimidation factor would translate. Meanwhile, the Great Wall couldn't do what Shaq did in the paint. It has no mobility, no adaptability, no clutch gene. So while the Great Wall defended more territory, Prime Shaquille O'Neal was the superior defender in terms of impact, effectiveness, and dominance within his domain. Put Shaq at any critical point along that wall, and that section doesn't fall. That's the difference between being a barrier and being unstoppable. The verdict? Shaq couldn't patrol 13,000 miles, but neither could the wall dominate a single possession. They operated in completely different dimensions of defense. The wall bought time through sheer existence. Shaq eliminated possibilities through pure will. One defended an empire passively. The other defended the paint like his life depended on it. If you're asking who was more dominant in their respective domain, it's Shaq every time. The wall eventually fell to the Mongols. Prime Shaq never fell to anyone.